Sounds good, Wasim. Mark O'Sullivan, good morning. Hey, Mark, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. So, folks, in the comments, so what I'm going to be speaking about today is uh, this concept called role playing. So it's and I'm getting right into the topic right now. So hopefully all of you are settled in and you got your notes, your notebook ready to take notes. So role playing, it's a role now. Role playing is a very common practice within most sales organizations or sales professions, right? And basically, the purpose of role playing is, and as a sales professional or as a recruiter such as myself, we have a lot of conversations with people, right? A large amount of contact over a period of time. So in these conversations with people that we're either trying to sell to or trying to tell them about an opportunity, a job opportunity, or maybe it's organizations that we're prospecting into, and we're having these conversations, we hear common objections, right? Common objections, common stalls, common responses as to why the organization or the candidate's not interested in hearing more. So, for example, let's say with candidates, the most common objections I hear all the time is, I'm not interested, I'm already employed. What else? I'm busy right now, I can't speak. Send me the job description, send me more details, I'll get back to you. I'll let me think about it, Dean. I'll think about it, I'll get back to you. So these are examples of common objections and stalls. And these are the most common ones that I hear as a recruiter. So what I do through role playing is, because I know, okay, having done so many phone calls with so many candidates and job seekers over the years, these are the most common objections that I receive. So given the fact that I now know what kind of objections I can anticipate receiving, I can now role play and practice how I'm going to respond to these common objections and see if I can overcome them and still move ahead with my job, and see if I can help this individual with a potential job opportunity, right? And the same thing goes for sales. So my point is, what you need to be doing, folks, as a job seeker over the course of your job search, you will encounter certain objections and stalls and reasons why the organization, the recruiter, or whoever it is doesn't want to move ahead with you or continue the conversation, or whatever reason they have for not wanting to hire you or move you further along the process. So what you need to do as a job seeker is you need to take note of these objections, and what happens is, when over the course of your job search, you're going to see patterns in terms of the types of feedback you're going to get from recruiters, from organizations, as to why they don't want to move ahead with you, or whatever the reason is, right? The point here is that, the reason why I'm going over this, folks, is to let you know the importance of role playing. So firstly, as a job seeker, you can, at this point, if you've been in the job search for a few weeks, maybe for a few months, you probably can see patterns in terms of the types of feedback you're getting from recruiters and organizations and all of that. So first and foremost, folks, what you need to be doing, if you have not done so already, is you need to keep track of all of these common responses you're getting. And the reason you want to do that is, look, if you find that you're hearing these common responses, objections, and rejections, or whatever it is, then having knowledge of that, you now know that you can anticipate those in the future, and now, because of that, you can now anticipate the various objections, right? And I see some comments coming in. Asma, I'm going to get to your comment shortly, Asma. So this allows you, again, folks, to prepare for it, right? So which brings me to the number one purpose of role playing, is so that you can anticipate common responses. And you see these patterns in terms of what you're receiving and what you're hearing from the marketplace, from organizations, from recruiters. So because of that, you can now prepare a good response in how to overcome these common responses. And the third reason, and then another additional reason why the role playing is important is because you're now able to practice. Okay, I'm definitely gonna be getting these kind of responses. This is how I'm gonna respond to it. And next, you can now practice how you're going to respond. Now, why this is important is, when you practice it, you can now, the way you respond to your responses now will be much more fluid, and you'll be able to convey a lot more confidence in how you respond to common objections and rejections you're going to receive, right? So that's one of the number one reasons why role playing is important. So you can actually practice how you're going to respond to these common responses you're anticipating that you're going to hear at some point in your job search, and it's going to result in you being able to respond to all those very fluidly and with confidence. Now, tip number and the second reason why role playing is important is, and I already kind of touched on this, you need to keep track of your common objections. So how many of you are keeping track of your of the common objections that you receive over the course of your job search? Put in the comments right now, folks. Have you been keeping track? Have you been keeping track of the most common objections, rejections, stalls, reasons why they don't want to move ahead with you, reasons why, or whatever it is? Like, put it in the comments. Are you keeping track? That's something I definitely want all of you to put in the comments. I'm very curious to hear about that. Um, Put in a yes or no. Put in yes if you are keeping track of these common rejections, objections, and stalls, and all these things over the course of your job search. Put in the comments right now, folks. Be frank, be honest. Put it out there. I just want to get an idea of how many of you are actually doing that. If not, feel free to be frank and honest. I'm not gonna bash on anyone. Because look, a lot of people, a lot of job seekers are not doing this whole role playing thing. So put in the comments how many of you are keeping track of actual rejections, rejection messages, rejection reasons. Maybe you keep hearing you're overqualified. Maybe you're hearing you're underqualified. You're too junior. Maybe you're hearing send me your resume, and then you never hear back from them again. Other examples: we're not hiring right now. Other example is we need some time to make a decision. Other example would be we need to speak to more candidates before we make a final decision. So these are examples of common rejection messages or stalls or objections you'll receive in your jobs. If you have heard any of those, folks, or anything similar, put in the comments right now, yes or no. Yes, have you been keeping track of these, or even if you've been hearing these or similar kind of rejections? Let me know in the comments. And third important reason why role playing is important, and what I want to cover during the course of this conversation is, or during this live stream, is don't assume, folks, what they're saying is the actual reason why they don't want to move ahead with you. And by the way, that does not make the organizations or the recruiters bad people. There's actually reasons why they're not giving you the exact reason. I'm going to cover that shortly. But the third important point is understand that what they mean, like the actual reason for why they don't want to move ahead with you, they might not let you know that up front. So the reason they tell you, do not assume that's the actual reason why or what they're really saying. So what I'm going to go over in this live stream is I'm going to go over these common objections. And then I'm going to tell you what do they actually mean by it, okay? I'm going to let you know what exactly the recruiter or the hiring manager or whoever it is you're in contact with, what they mean by it. So first thing, with regards to role-playing, first important point, if you're taking notes, keep track of your these common rejections, objections, and stalls that you hear. And again, the most common ones, and I covered this in a recent post that I did, but most of the common ones you're going to hear is, we're not hiring right now, right? That could be a potential objection or stall or rejection. Number two common one is send me your resume, right? You reach out to someone, you reach out to a recruiter, you reach out to a hiring manager. They say, okay, great. All right, send me your resume. And what happens next? You never hear back from them again, right? The third one is you're overqualified. Another one might be you're underqualified. You're too junior for the position. Another one could be your salary expectations are too high. Your salary is not in the range that we're looking for. Another one might be we'll get back to you with a final decision. You never hear back from them again. Another one could be we have a few more candidates to meet before we make a final decision. So these and other common responses, folks, you need to keep track of these. You need to take note of these, especially if you keep hearing the same thing over and over again. Now, why do you need to keep track of these? Aside from the fact that you can now practice your responses and how you're going to respond, it's also a great way for you to see like what the job market's feedback is regarding you as a candidate. Because if you keep hearing the same thing over and over again, you know what? The common factor in all these various scenarios where you're hearing the same objection over and over again, what's the common factor? The common factor is you, right? So what you need to look at is, okay, what am I doing that might be causing this response from other people? What's causing recruiters to immediately say, yeah, send me your resume, we'll get back to you, and then they never get back to you? What's causing people to respond to you in a way that they keep saying, yeah, you're overqualified, we can't consider you for these roles? What's resulting in people saying, yeah, you know what, you have a great skill set and everything, but your salary expectations too high, but let's keep in touch? Like, if you keep hearing certain objections over and over again, folks, you need to, first of all, write it down. Don't get upset. Don't take it personally. First thing you need to do is write it down. Keep track of them. Keep track of the most common objections. And secondly, what you need to do is you need to take a look at, okay, what might I be doing at my end that's creating this response consistently in the people I'm reaching out to? Because you need to take responsibility that if the same thing keeps happening to you over and over again, the common factor is you, folks. All right. And that might be an unpleasant reality for some of you, but you need to take responsibility for the fact that the common denominator, the common factor in these various organizations responding to you in the same way is you. So this is why another reason why it's important to keep track of these objections. Now, now another factor that I wanted to stress out on, and I see some of the comments here. So let me just quickly go over some of the comments here, folks. So Asma has a great question. So Asma, I'm going to get to your question shortly. Meena, hey, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. Meena, Sneha, thanks for tuning in. Janavi, another great question. I'm going to get to the questions shortly, folks. Matthew, okay, great. So Matthew says he usually gets the I'm overqualified objection. Sweta, thanks for tuning in. And Sweta has a good comment. I'm going to go over these comments shortly, folks. So the next thing. So step number one: simply keep track of these objections. Keep track of what you're hearing from the job market, from recruiters, from hiring managers, and all of that. Now, second thing you need to keep in mind, folks, is firstly, what are the most common ones, right? And then secondly, what are they really saying? Like, what do they really, when they say we're not hiring that right now, do they really mean that? When they're saying you're overqualified, is that the actual reason why they don't want to move ahead with you? When they say your salary expectations are too high, are you really over budget? Like, would they really not consider someone who was the perfect fit? When they say we're going to get back to you with a final decision and they don't, what does that really mean? When they say, yeah, we have a few more candidates to reach out to before deciding, what do they really mean by that? And this goes back to what I was saying before. Do not assume that the reason they give you is the actual reason why they don't want to move ahead, right? This is the other important thing. So point number two is, what do they actually mean? So write down your common objections, right? What you're receiving. And by the way, folks, put it in the comments. What are your most common objections and rejections that you receive from companies? And shortly, I'm going to go over the comments, and I'm gonna let you know what they're saying versus what they actually mean by this objection and what they're saying. And hey, Richard, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. Hey, Richard, I know we're supposed to coordinate on doing one of these live streams. My apologies, I've just been pretty busy, but I'm gonna get back to you and we'll coordinate that and do something for the viewers for sure. So folks, that's what I'm gonna go over next is what do they actually mean. So let me go over some of these common objections, but in the comments, and this is an opportunity for you to hear from me directly, like what do they actually mean by the objection? Put in the comments common objections you receive, common rejections you receive on your job search, common reasons why they don't want to move ahead with you. Put them in the comments, folks. Don't be shy. I know some of you might not want to do that, so feel free to send me a private message as well, and I'll get over to private messages as well. I won't disclose your name if it's a private message, and I'll go over these rejections. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you know what do they actually mean by the various objections you're hearing. Now, a caveat. Now, a quick thing you need to keep in mind when you're hearing these rejections or responses and objections is at which point of the interview cycle you're hearing them could make a difference, because someone telling you, you're overqualified on the initial phone call, the reason they're saying that is completely different at the introductory call versus them saying it after you've gone in and met with them 2-3 times and they're telling you that at the final interview stage. Two totally different reasons why they're actually saying that. So another additional thing is you need to keep track of is not just the actual objections and rejections you're receiving and like what they are, but also at which point of the interview cycle are you hearing them, folks? Like that's as equally important, because someone saying, again, the example I just gave, someone saying, oh, you know what, Dean, you're overqualified right on the introductory phone call, totally different from after me going in and me meeting with them once, twice, 2-3 times, and them telling me that I'm overqualified at the final interview stage. Totally different, totally different reasons why. So you need to keep track of not only the objections themselves and the rejections themselves, but which part of the interview cycle are you hearing them? Another important factor, folks. So please keep this in mind. This is a very important point. Please keep this in mind. Let me know in the comments if you understand what I'm saying. So keep track of, firstly, what the objections are, the common objections, common rejections, common reasons why they don't want to move ahead with you. Secondly, at which stage of the interview cycle are you hearing these objections, rejections, stalls, and reasons why they don't want to move ahead with you? So, great. I see people putting in the comments what the common rejections they're receiving. That sounds great, folks. I'm going to get to those shortly, but very important additional point here, folks. At which stage of the interview cycle are you hearing these responses? Just as equally as important, because the motivation and the reason why they're saying it, it's totally different depending on which stage of the interview cycle you're at. So make sure you keep track of that as well. Now, I'm going to go over some of the most common objections and rejections you're going to receive, and I'm going to let you know what potentially it actually means, because what they're saying versus what they actually mean could be entirely different. So the most common one, and this is based on the post that I did, I think it was about like a week ago. So one of the common ones that I received that you'll hear as a job seeker is, and this is after initial contact, is we're not hiring right now. Now, this could be from a recruiter, it could be directly from a hiring manager, it could be from whatever stakeholder is involved. Now, we're not hiring now. Now, let's say you hear we're not hiring now at the initial stage of communication, right? Maybe you call them, you introduce yourself, maybe you send a message, a LinkedIn message, and you're responding to some job posting that's out there, and you call in, or maybe you send your resume and you follow up, and the response is, hey, we're not hiring right now, but send us your resume, or we'll keep your resume on file, we'll get back to you. Now, what could that potentially mean, folks? And it does not necessarily mean that they're not hiring, because look, if they posted a job opportunity and they posted excuse me for that, and they posted it recently, but you follow up with them and they say, yeah, we're not hiring right now, but they posted the job like a day ago or 2 days ago, it could mean simply, and this is the actual reason why, so don't take offense to this, it could simply be that you just did not capture their attention. But obviously they're not going to say that to your face, because you know what, they want to be professional, they don't want to offend anyone. When I say they, I'm talking about recruiters, I'm talking about hiring managers and all these people, right? Or stakeholders, or whoever's involved in the hiring process. It's simply that your message, your initial message, your phone call did not capture the attention of the person you're reaching out to. But they don't want to tell you that, because nobody wants to say, hey, you know what, your message is kind of crappy, like it didn't capture my attention, like I don't see the deal here. Like, no one's going to say that, no one's going to want to see that. So what do? They're going to say something else. Could be, we're not hiring right now. It could be, oh, this position is on halt, it's on pause. So these are some additional things that people might say, because they don't want to tell you that your message didn't capture their attention, or your phone call, your elevator pitch didn't capture their attention, that it wasn't effective, it wasn't well structured. So most people will not tell you that to your face, because firstly, most of us were raised to be polite to people, right? To be professional, to not offend people. And because of that, and because of the fact that your message didn't capture their attention, so they might come up with some other reason like this, such as, we're not hiring right now. The role is on this particular opportunity is on a hold. We already have candidates we're trying to interview right now. So if they're saying we're not hiring right now, or something in that regard, it could very well be that your message did not capture their attention, folks. So if you keep hearing this response, we're not hiring right now, this position is on hold right now, and I'm talking about the initial stages, right? What else? What are some other stalls, folks? But I'm sure you can think of other examples, right? On initial contact, like when people like all these excuses and reasons why, right? So they're avoiding telling you that your message is not eye-catching. It's not capturing their attention. It's not appealing to whatever position, whatever problem they have that they're trying to solve. So if you keep hearing that, take a look at what the structure of your message, folks. Maybe you're not capturing anyone's attention. And then, you know what? Be very get a friend, get a family member. Say, hey, please give me an honest feedback on whether this message would capture someone's attention. And you know what, the problem with family and friends, folks, is they don't want to hurt your feelings, right? They want to make you feel good and like that. So just be upfront with it. Just say, hey, look, maybe it's your mom, your dad, your grandma, your grandpa, your uncle, your friend, your best friend Dave from elementary. Be like, yo, don't worry about hurting my feelings or offending me or anything like that. Like, I'm really looking to get myself into the market and get a job and all that. So I need your 100% raw, uncut, honest feedback on this message, because if you give me honest feedback, that's how you're going to be helpful for me. Don't worry about hurting my feelings or offending me. Like, tell me, is this message like eye-catching? If you were a hiring manager, would this message capture your attention? Would this what's my message like? What's your feedback? You need to find that out, folks, because if you're constantly hearing that people are giving all these excuses or things that doesn't really make sense, it could be simply that your initial contact, your initial message, your initial phone call did not capture their attention. Now, ideally, you wanna run your initial message or your phone call by someone in your industry, right? Because someone in your industry would understand your skill set and would better be able to put themselves in the position of a hiring manager maybe and see, okay, does this message, does this initial elevator pitch or this phone call, would this capture my attention as someone in the industry, as someone who might be potentially hiring? and get their honest feedback, folks. Because if you keep hearing this thing, could be that you just did not capture their attention. They don't want to offend you and say, hey, your message sucks, or hey, that's a terrible message. No one wants to say that. As honest and frank and as transparent as I am, folks, like even I would never say to someone, hey, your message sucks. I might say, if I'm not busy, I might take the time to give some feedback and say, hey, look, your message is, this might be a more effective message. I might give you a template depending on how busy or not I am, folks, but I can't do that all the time, right? So this is what happens if people keep not responding. Take a look at your message. Take a look at the content of your message. Is it eye-catching? See if you can get someone to help you out with giving honest feedback on your message, right? Now, the next common stall or rejection or objection might be, you call a recruiter, or you get into contact with the hiring manager, you introduce yourself, and they say, okay, hey, send me your resume, I'll look it over, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And then what happens? They never get back to you. So this is kind of similar to the previous one, folks, and this send your resume thing, it could be a rejection. Do not assume that it's a positive thing and you need to be excited, because it depends on at which point of the conversation they say, send me your resume. So if let's say you call a recruiter, right? You say, hey, Dean, my name is so-and-so. I'm a Java developer and blah, 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 blah. And then my response to that is, okay, great. Thanks for your phone call. Send me your resume. We'll keep in touch. What that really means is what I'm really saying is you might not have captured my attention, right? And the reason why you did not capture my attention could be nothing to do with you, actually. It could be that I'm just not recruiting for Java developers right now. And I don't want to say, for whatever reason, maybe I don't want to say that I'm not looking for Java developers right now, because I'm concerned I might offend you or something of that sort. And I want to keep in touch with you. So I might say, something like that. Or it could be simply that maybe I am looking for Java developers, but the way you presented yourself, the way you did your elevator pitch, or however you presented yourself on your message, didn't really communicate much. Like maybe it was vague. Maybe it didn't communicate much value. Maybe it just didn't capture my attention, right? And this is the case when you hear extreme. And the reason you can identify if this is the reason, folks, is if the whole send me a resume thing is brought up very early in the conversation. If right up front they say, okay, send me a resume, I'll get back to you, that could be a sign, folks, that you have not captured the other person's attention. So keep that in mind. So if you're calling in, you say, hey, Sarah or John or Sally or whoever it is you're calling out to, hey, my name is blah, 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 and I'm looking, and I'm a Java developer and blah, blah, blah. And if right away their response is, okay, great, send me a resume, I'll get back to you, and whatever the case is, then that means they are not completely sold on you immediately. And there could be a few reasons why that is. So what you need to do is, when you hear this, send me a resume thing, you need to keep them on the phone a little longer and see if you can navigate the conversation. So you might say, hey, no worries, Dean, I can certainly go ahead and send you my resume. Hey, while I have you on the phone, Dean, let me ask, are you actively recruiting for Java developers right now? Right? So, and this is an important question. And before I get to moving along that further, folks, a lot of you, what you're doing is, as soon as someone says send me a resume, you're like, oh yeah, sure, I'll send you my resume and blah, that's it, and you get off the phone. Maybe because you're nervous or anxious, I don't know. But do not think that send me your resume thing is something to get excited about. It's nothing to get excited about, folks. If someone says send me a resume, could be another reason why they're asking you to do that. So what you need to do is, continuing with my example, let's say, someone says, or let's say you call me and I say, send me your resume. Then you say, hey, Dean, no problem. I can certainly send me your resume. Actually, what's your email address, Dean? And you get down my email address and you say, okay, great, Dean. Now, Dean, while I have you on the phone, are you actively recruiting for or looking for Java developers right now? And then I might say, yeah, I am, but they're looking for a very specific skill set and a very specific thing in terms of experience that they're looking for in a candidate. Which, by the way, folks, you might not have mentioned in your initial pitch, right? So now at least you know that. Now you can be like, okay, Dean, all right. So I mean, what are those additional skill sets and criteria they're looking for? Oh, well, they're looking for someone with cloud experience and specifically with AWS, because they have a cloud transformation project going on, and their need. I mean, their core technology is Java, but they need someone who has experience with the cloud side of things. Then you're like, oh, okay, great. So Dean, I mean, I actually do have experience with AWS, specifically with AWS. I forgot to mention that in my initial pitch, but there was actually a recent project I was working on where blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. So you see my point, folks. At least now you're able to verify or capture my attention, and actually at least find out that yes, I am recruiting on something that might be a fit for you. And also, one of the requirements is something you might not have mentioned in your initial message or in your initial pitch over the phone. And it could be other reasons as well. Now let's say I say, no, you know what, I'm not recruiting for Java development roles right now. Okay, great. That does not mean you still get off the phone and send your resume and then that's it. You now need to make sure, okay, Dean, I understand you're not recruiting for Java developers right now, but would you say, Dean, that you frequently do work on Java development requisitions? Like, is this a requirement you get fairly frequently? Yeah, I do. Okay, excellent. All right, Dean. So I'm gonna go ahead and send you my resume, and let me connect with you. Over the next every 2 weeks or so, because it sounds like you do receive Java development requisitions fairly frequently. And I want to let you know that I'm very much on the market. I'm a great candidate. I have some excellent experience, and I definitely want us to keep in touch. Are you okay, Dean, if I followed up with you every maybe 1 to 2 weeks or so? Would that make sense for you? Then I might say, yeah, sure. Or I might say, 1 to 2 weeks might be too frequent. Check in with me every 3 weeks or so. So anyway, the point is, folks, you need to qualify these objections that you're getting. You need to dig a little deeper. So hope that one helps. And I see some comments here. I'm going to get to the comments shortly, folks. Now, another one might be, you're overqualified, right? So this is another common objection that a lot of you might hear, and that you're overqualified. Now, what they usually means when they say that you're overqualified, like when a recruiter says or a hiring manager says, we love you, you're a great candidate, you have great skills and all that, but we feel you're overqualified for the role. What they're actually saying, folks, the unspoken paragraph that every or most hiring people are saying is, look, we like you, you have a great skill set, but we feel like you're at such a senior level in your career that our concern is that you're going to stay with us, you're going to get your experience for whatever reason you're looking to get in with us, and then soon as another opportunity comes up that's more in line with your level of seniority, you're going to leave us. That's the unspoken concern, folks, when someone says you're overqualified. Now, there are cases out there, organizations that they might discriminate based on your seniority. They only want young people on the team. Now, I can't do anything about that, folks, unfortunately. Okay, like I really can't. And you know what? At the end of the day, would you want to work for an organization like that? Probably not. Now, and there are going to be situations out there where they might say the whole overqualified thing, and because they simply want someone who's young and junior or whatever the case is. But then there's those organizations out there that simply have the concern that, yeah, I mean, you'd be a great person for the role, but our unspoken concern is you're going to leave us soon as something more senior comes up. So what do you need to do as a job seeker is you need to understand this, and you need to reassure them of, firstly, why are you interested in this position with them that's maybe a little junior to your level of skill set? And secondly, why does it make sense for you to stay on with this company, at least for a few years, even if you were presented with an opportunity that's more in line with your level of experience? So that's your challenge as a job seeker, folks, is you need to prepare a response and address that, even if they don't specifically say that that's their concern. So if they say that, hey, we like you, we feel you're overqualified, you say, great, I understand, Dean. I understand that I'm overqualified. I know that I have a senior level of experience in my background. But, I do understand that, your major concern might be that you're gonna hire me, you're gonna get me on the team, and your concern might be that, you know what, something else is gonna come up that's more in line with my level of experience, and I might leave your company. Am I accurate in saying that? Is that your actual concern? And then most of the time they might say, yeah, I mean that's what we're wondering. Like, why would you stay on with us if you're a senior level person? Why would you stick around with us if something more in line with your experience comes up? That's the unspoken concern, folks. So at least now you can open up the conversation and you can reassure them, hey, you know what? I totally understand where you're coming from. But you know what? The reason why, from my perspective, the reason why this is a great career opportunity for me is because of XYZ. You're a great company. The project you're working on, it's exactly in an area that allows me to enhance that part of my skill set. It's a great company. It's a smaller team. I prefer a smaller team. And anyway, these are examples, right? So you need to justify from your perspective why it will make sense for you to join this company, regardless of the fact that you're overqualified. So that's the unspoken concern, folks. So a lot of times you need to be able to address these unspoken concerns that might not be brought up to you up front. So hope that helps. And now next one is your salary expectation is too high. So they say, you apply for a role, you're in conversation, maybe you interview with them, and they're like, you know what? we like you, but your salary expectation is just too high. Now, don't assume that companies would not pay over their budget, folks. I have experienced this as a recruiter plenty of times, where organizations have met like stellar candidates who they felt were like their dream, their unicorn candidate, their fantasy candidate, and they went above budget. Now, this is the part where do not let your ego get in the way, folks. Do not take this personally. But when companies usually say that your salary expectations are too high, and your expectations are not something ridiculously over the budget, okay, I'm not talking about those kind of situations, because we need to be realistic. But if your expectation is not way over what their budget is, it could simply be that they simply can't justify, investing whatever amount you're asking for based on how you've presented yourself as a candidate. So there's some uncertainty regarding certain aspects of your background. Like, that's really what's in question here. It's don't assume it's just a matter of the money. A lot of you are defaulting to simply lowering your salary. I mean, and there's definitely situations where you need to do that, right? Where you need to maybe negotiate and be more flexible in your salary. But before you get to that, you need to first identify whether or not there's an area in your background that you have not sold them on enough, or maybe you haven't highlighted. Maybe there's an unaddressed area of concern. Maybe it's a missing skill set. Maybe it's I don't know, some kind of some project you mentioned and you didn't highlight the most important parts of it, and there's some uncertainty there. So there could be a whole bunch of things, folks. So this is where you have to investigate and probe during the interview, and this is where, again, you have to role play and practice how you're going to respond to these situations. So maybe you might say, hey, so I might say, you know what, I really like your skill set, but you know what, your salary expectation is a bit high. So that's where we're at right now. Do you have any flexibility with your salary? So your response might be, hey, Dean, I totally understand that. I totally get that. In fact, I wouldn't expect you to make a decision if the finances and the budget didn't make sense for you. I totally get that. I totally understand, because I understand that you as a company, you want to make sure you're making the right investment in the right people, in the right person for this role. Now, that being said, Dean, aside from salary, what are the concerns or areas of any question marks you have regarding my background that would prevent you from making a decision on moving ahead with me for this particular opportunity? And then I might see, oh, no. I mean, no, there's nothing. I mean, it's just pretty much your salary expectations are high. Then you might say, okay, I totally get it, Dean. Now, that being said, Dean, I do understand you're fine with that. But I was just thinking, like, I know we were discussing cloud transformation projects just now, and I feel like, that might be an interest, but might be a very important focus on this particular project and for this role. And perhaps, and I know I didn't speak too much about my cloud projects that I have experience with. Would you say that that's an area of concern for you? Like, do you feel that I might not have enough experience in that area of things? Would that be your concern? And I might say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I mean, it might be, because you only told me about like one of your cloud projects, and the cloud aspect is very important for this role. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely something we're looking for in an ideal candidate. So this is where people might open up, folks, right? So you need to ask these probing questions, and you need to role play these. This is where the role playing thing comes. So you need to practice these common responses and how people might interact with you, because now you've opened up the discussion, and now you can at least go back to your cloud project, maybe describe it in more detail, maybe speak about some other cloud projects, and now the decision maker can now mentally make sense of, okay, all right, so sounds like this person actually does have a lot of cloud experience. Although they didn't describe it in as much detail before. Now they're starting to make sense of the investment, right? As long as your investment is not like 20K above their budget, something crazy like that. Of course, you gotta be reasonable, folks, right? But considering it's not too far from what they're looking to invest in someone, now they're mentally understanding. Okay, they're explaining this stuff. Yeah, they've addressed my hidden objection about the cloud aspects. Makes sense now, right? Now they can move ahead. So, that's another one. And now, I do have a few more, but I want to make sure I get around to the comments, folks, because I know a lot of you have, put in a lot of comments. So anyway, I hope that what examples I've shown you so far, you get the point, and you need to practice and role play these responses and these scenarios, folks. That's my point. If you don't have anyone to practice, if you have someone to practice with, that's ideal. So you want to get someone to say, hey, maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's your significant other. You say, hey, can you pretend you're the hiring manager, or can you pretend you're a recruiter, and just give me every objection you can, every rejection you can, and you want to practice your responses to all these various responses, right? That you get from the recruiter, the hiring manager, or even during the interview itself, like some of the examples I give, we're not hiring, you're overqualified, your salary expectation is too high. And the first thing you need to understand is maybe it's not the actual reason what they're saying. So you got to think about, okay, what could be the actual reason? And secondly, you need to role play these responses, how you can overcome them. I give you some examples right now, folks, of how you can probe and investigate and handle these some of these concerns. So going to the questions. So thanks so much for everyone. And by the way, if you found this helpful and useful, please put it in the comments so I know. And let me know, is this a topic you want me to speak about more often? Because I can speak about this more often, like responding to these objections and these rejections in more frequently, like over over these live streams as well as my posts. So let me know in the comments if you found this useful, folks. Appreciate that. And if you found it useful, please hit like, because that's how it makes my content available to your network, so other people know about me, and then I can help more people, right? So make sure you hit like. Okay, so going back, so Asma had a question. So Asma said, I don't get detailed feedback about rejection, but one milestone I think is my experience is with boutique or relative small agencies, and I have worked from home for most part. How do you think I can overcome that? Okay, so Asma, that's a great question. So what Asma is saying is, look, she doesn't get detailed feedback about the rejection, but what she feels is that her experience in smaller size firms, relatively smaller. So Asma, I believe you're a technical recruiter. So Asma's mostly been working in smaller staffing agencies, right? And she feels like that might be an issue, and the fact that she has mostly worked from home might be the issue. So great question, Asma. So firstly, what you need to identify, and these conversations, folks, need to take place over the phone, or given the situation we're in right now, over video conversation, right? You do not want to have you should never try to sell yourself through text and email and LinkedIn messaging. LinkedIn messaging and email are all platforms to get you on a phone call or a video face-to-face so you can have an actual conversation. So Asma, that being said, what I would suggest is bring up the objection, folks. If you feel that the fact that you've been in smaller agencies and because you've been working from home, if you feel that's the actual reason, bring it up. A lot of people avoid doing this, but hey, that's what I would do. I would say, so let's say let's say Asma's interviewing me, right? I'm a recruiter, I'm trying to get a job, and then Asma says, yeah, we don't want to move ahead with you, blah blah blah, whatever. Then I might say, on conversation on the phone, I might say, hey Asma, look, I really like your organization, but look, I gotta ask, what I'm thinking, Asma, is you don't want to move ahead with me because I've mostly been working at smaller organizations and smaller boutique IT organizations, and also I've mostly been working from home for the most part. And I understand that you're a larger organization and maybe you're very KPI driven, you're target driven, and you feel like maybe at a smaller organization those aspects might not exist. Would you say, Asma, those are your two primary concerns at this time? How simple is that, folks? Just bring up whatever you think, because you know what, folks, you gotta trust your instinct and your intuition, right? A lot of you have your instinct and your intuition, but you sometimes ignore it, right? You're like, nah, I can't be that, or you just don't want to bring it up front. Bring up the objection up front. Some people disagree with me on that, right? But you want to bring it up front, because you know what? Now one of two things are going to happen, right? Asma's either going to tell me, Dean, you know what? That is definitely the concern. Like we are a larger size organization. You've mostly been working at smaller organizations, and we need someone who comes from a larger organization. So now I can respond to that. Now that I know, okay, that's the actual reason. Now I can say, okay. And I can, whatever, I practice and I role play how I'm going to respond to that, right? But now I can at least address it because I know that's the actual concern. Or now the second thing that could happen is maybe Asma says, no, Dean, like that's not the issue. Like we don't care that you come from a smaller agency. We don't care that you've been working from home. Then I can say, okay, great, I understand, Asma. So what's holding you back from moving ahead with me? Because I'm really excited about you, and it sounds like we had a great conversation. What's holding you back? Like, is it my salary expectation? Is it the fact that I'm working like far away? Is it the fact that most of my recruitment experience has been in pharmaceuticals, and you're looking for IT recruiters? What's the real reason, Asma? At least now we can have a conversation, folks, right? So that would be my advice to you, Asma, and do this over the phone if at all possible. Because that's the best way to actually have a conversation. So I would say, if you feel that's the reason why, Asma, bring it up and see how they respond, and at least you can now get a conversation going. So I hope that helps, Asma, and a great question, by the way. So let's keep going on here, folks. Next question. Hey, Meena, I think I said hi to me already, Meena, but thanks so much for tuning in. Folks, Meena is another great person to follow. She's been interviewing a lot of job search experts and recruiters and job career coaches. You can get a lot of great information from following Mina, so make sure you follow her, especially if you're like a new graduate and students. Like, she does a lot of great work and help. So make sure you follow Mina. She's a great person to follow. And also, by the way, folks, for those of you open to networking with each other, you need to be networking with each other, right? So those of you who are commenting and you see other people commenting, great networking opportunity. Like, make sure after this live stream is done, you connect with each other and make connections and become friends or professional connections, whatever the case is. Like, this is how you build your network. So if you're open to networking, folks, I do this in every live stress session now. If you are open to networking with other people, put it in the comments right now. Say, I'm open to networking. Feel free to connect with me. Great way to connect with other people. Sneha says, hey, Sneha, hi, Dean. Is certification like CompTIA A++ required to get a job in networking if you don't have experience? Oh, sorry, that's two different people. Sorry, Sneha just said hi. So Jahanvi asks, is certification like CompTIA A+ required to get a job in networking if you don't have experience? So it depends, Jahanvi. Jahanvi, it depends on the requirements of the organization. Some organizations might say, yeah, they need to have certification. Others might say, no, we're just looking for the practical experience, or we just need someone to come in, get started, someone we can train and grow within the company, whatever the case is. So you got to look at it on a case-by-case basis. So I would say just ask them, Jahanvi, just ask, is this certification an absolute requirement for the role? Or are you more so looking for someone who's willing to come in and ramp them up and help train them and get them started in the role? Folks, the best thing to do is just let them know what's on your mind. Like, be frank, be transparent, like, and that cuts through a lot of BS, right? So make sure you keep that in mind. Thanks for your question, Jahanvi. I hope that helped. Sneha says big yes. So Sneha, I guess Sneha is referring to what I asked everyone before. Are you keeping track of all of your objections? So keep track of all of the objections and rejection messages you get, folks. If you can anticipate them, you can prepare for them, you can role play for them, and you can address them. Matthew says overqualified. Yeah, so I guess, Matthew, you're receiving the overqualified objection. So I think I went over that scenario before, so that should address it. By the way, folks, I released the recordings of this on my YouTube channel, as well as on my podcast, which is on Anchor. It's also distributed to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. So if you're busy for whatever reason, you can't check it out, don't freak out. I released the recording as well, and you could also see the recording after this is done as well. Sweta, hey, thanks for tuning in, Sweta. So Sweta says, good point, Dean. Never send a resume without knowing if there is hiring going on. Keeping track helps you to reflect on yourself. I ask my clients to send me the samples they receive and coach them. It is an eye-opener for how job seekers don't catch the hidden meaning behind why they are not getting a response. Agreed. Yeah, exactly, folks. So like Sweta's saying, do not assume the reason they're giving why they don't want to move ahead with you is the actual reason why they don't want to, what they actually mean, like what the actual concern is, right? So I gave a few examples before of that, right? It could be simply that they don't want to offend you with the actual reason. They don't want to hurt you, or they don't want to come across as unprofessional. Or it could be that maybe there was a time they were frank and honest and upfront, but then one day some job seeker got offended, and then they're like, wow, this person reacted really bad. I don't want to experience that ever again, because it could affect my company brand if this person goes on Glassdoor and like put some negative comment. So you know what? It's better just not to let people know what the real reason why we're rejecting them. So I'm just gonna come up with something else. Could be the reason why, folks, right? So you need to understand these various things. I know it's not ideal. I know it's like, yeah, why can't people just be upfront and transparent? Everyone has a reason why, folks. Most people, and as a recruiter, I can tell you, most human beings, most people avoid confrontation. Most people avoid confrontation. It's like human nature. I see it all the time as a recruiter, like especially, and you know what? A lot of you follow me, a lot of you like me, and I really appreciate that. But this could actually be kind of a negative thing for me as well, because you know what? Maybe I'm in touch with you regarding a job opportunity, and you don't want to move ahead, but you don't want to. You're afraid that, hey, Dean's gonna get mad at me or something like that, which I won't, by the way, or I'm gonna offend Dean. So you know what? I'm not gonna tell him the actual reason why. So I'm just gonna say something that's not gonna offend him. I'm gonna say, yeah, Dean, you know what? I'm busy. I just. I don't know, something that doesn't offend me or something, right? I mean, it happens. So people avoid confrontation. People don't want to, offend other people. People don't want to hurt other people. So you got to keep this in mind. It's a lot of human psychology here, folks. Like, you got to keep that in mind. So I hope that gives some insight. And thanks for your comments, with a great comment. Paras says, I'm keeping track of it. I received one next day after applying. We are not moving forward with the application. Please do not take it personally. We like you. We promise. It might not be a match right now, but going by the job description, it seemed that it's a perfect match. Yeah, so Paras, now I'm not sure, Paras, if you received this as a message or whether you received this as, or you're talking about a phone conversation. Because if it's like some template message, I mean, it could be like the same message they're saying for a whole bunch of people. And could be a whole bunch of reasons why they didn't move ahead with you. And this is where, folks, I always advise, like, this is why I hate the fact that people are depending entirely on their resume or some online application. As much as possible, folks, and Paras, this goes to you as well. See if you can speak to an actual live human being as much as possible. If you don't know a specific person, see if you can call HR. See if you can, maybe you know the name of your point of contact. See if you can message them on LinkedIn and see if you can get them on a phone call. Say, hey, look, I understand you're not moving ahead with me. It would mean a lot to me if I could get your feedback on how I performed as a candidate, or what, any recommendations you have on your resume. I know you get a lot of requests for this, but it would really mean a lot to me. Somehow try to get them on the phone and see if you can have an actual conversation about why they passed on your resume. And you yourself, Paras, might be able to figure out, like, so it says the most common ones are, we'll get back to you, and while your skills and experience are impressive, we have decided not to move forward at this time. All right, so Vineet, so these are two great ones. So so when they say we'll get back to you, so there could be a few reasons why. Right now, this is from a recruitment standpoint. It could be that they have other candidates that they need to interview, like, and they seriously have to interview like a whole bunch of people. It could be that they have to discuss things with the other stakeholders or influencers, whoever else is involved in the hiring process. Could be that could be simply Vineet, that for whatever reason they're not completely sold on you being the ideal candidate for the role. So that's what that really means, right? So this is where and again, if you're getting these over email, I mean, that's not the right place to have that conversation. I mean, you could ask, but try and get them on the phone, Vineet, and ask them, look, I understand that you said that you're going to get back to me. Now, is there any reason why you would not consider me as an ideal candidate for this role at this point, given our conversation, Dean, right? I mean, this is where you got to be transparent and just be upfront with what inquiries you have, Vineet. Like, whatever you're thinking is probably the right question to ask when you're speaking with them, right? And the other thing is follow up, right? So don't assume that they're not interested in you. It could be one of those other reasons. Maybe they had to check back with their boss about moving ahead with you. Maybe they gotta speak with some other people at the organization. Maybe suddenly there's a pause on their budget. Maybe they suddenly said, okay, we're cutting off hiring. For example, COVID-19, perfect example of this, right? A lot of hiring budgets got slashed. So what you need to do at your end, Vineet, is keep following up with them, keep showing interest, keep doing a value-added follow-up so that you're in touch with them and in communication. Now, the second one, while your skills and experience are impressive, we have decided not to move forward at this time. Now, this objection, Vineet, what that tells me is it could very well be that there's some part they're uncertain about you in terms of maybe some part of your background, some part of your skill set. Is there something in your background, Vineet, that they said that at their end, where they need someone with a specific skill set? Maybe it's a bonus or asset, but they really need that in someone. So this is where you have to evaluate and take an honest look at yourself, folks. Like, where might you be lacking? Like, what might be some areas of uncertainty that might be being experienced by this hiring manager that's preventing them from saying, hey, this is the guy? Because obviously they have said, like, your skills and experience are impressive, we've decided not to move forward. What that tells me is, Vineet, for whatever reason, either in your conversation, your interview with them, something has not really captured their attention, or there's some uncertainty regarding your background or your profile. So this is where, again, if you can get onto a phone conversation where you can have that conversation with them and be like, look, I appreciate the feedback, and it's great that you find that my skill sets are impressive. And aside from the fact that you like my skill sets and all of that, any other reason why you're not looking to move forward with me? Like, is there a pause on the hiring, or like what's kind of preventing you from considering me as a candidate for the role? Very straightforward and very upfront, folks. Like, and sometimes those are the best questions to ask, because one, nobody else is going to ask them, and two, it's going to catch them off guard, and they're going to have a very transparent and open conversation with you regarding what the actual situation might be, right? So but my what I get from that particular message, Vineet, is that there's some kind of an uncertainty regarding your background as a fit for the role. And the best thing is if you can figure out what that is before the conversation, because again, going back to your intuition and your gut, folks, you might have an idea what that exactly might be. So I'm just making this up, Vineet, but let's say they're looking for someone ideally who has experience with XYZ, and you might be weak in XYZ. So you might say, hey, Dean, look, I'm happy to hear that you were impressed by my background and my skill set, but I was just thinking that, I am kind of weak on the XYZ side of things. And I know that in our discussion, you mentioned that XYZ is something you're looking for in an ideal candidate. Is that an area of concern for you? Like, is that what's preventing you from moving ahead with me? So this is one of the best ways to deal with this situation is for you to bring up the potential area of weakness or potential objection you yourself as a candidate, folks. So this is another thing you need to role play at home. Like, how are you going to do this? How are you going to do the how are you going to have that conversation? How are you going to respond to it? And you need to practice it, right? And keep practicing. Hey, Dean, I understand that you felt like I had a great background and experience for this particular role, but I feel like my lack of experience with XYZ might be the area of concern for you. That's what's preventing you from selecting me for this role? And keep practicing that so that you do it fluidly and with confidence, and that's going to come across to the other person as well. Okay, this person seems like someone who knows their stuff, who's confident, who's very interested in the role, and then at their end they start opening up and they start letting you know a bit more about what might be preventing them from moving ahead with you. So I hope that helps, Vineet. Great question. Sneha says, mostly at the end of the phone interview, hiring is on freeze, hence we will let you know once position opens up. Okay, so Sneha, for the first thing you need to understand, folks, Sneha, is if they've agreed to get on a phone interview with you and they had a conversation with you, and at the end they're saying, oh, by the way, there's a hiring freeze and we'll let you know once the position opens up, it could mean, Sneha, that you did not, for whatever reason, again, it comes down to uncertainty. They're uncertain about you as a candidate, or there's some part of your background you weren't able to really effectively sell them on. And they're just uncertain about you as a candidate, but obviously they don't want to tell you that. They don't want to say, hey, Sneha, we're uncertain about you. Obviously they're not going to want to say that. So they're saying something else like, hey, hiring is on a freeze right now. Well, if hiring was on a freeze, why did they get you on the phone call in the first place, right? Why conduct a phone interview if hiring is on a freeze, right? I mean, what's the logic behind that? So you got to think about these things logically and rationally, folks. Like, if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. So what you need to do at your end, Sneha, like if you get that kind of a response that, hiring is on a freeze, your response to that might be, hey, I totally understand. I completely understand that hiring is on a freeze right now. But aside from the fact that hiring is on a freeze, like, do you feel like there are some areas of my background that you're uncertain about that I can clear up for you while I have you on the phone? You can ask that. Or you can say, hey, I totally understand, Dean, that you have a hiring freeze right now. But I was thinking over the course of our conversation, I know you mentioned you're looking for someone. I think you're a recruiter, Sneha. I understand you're looking for someone with recruitment experience in industry XYZ, and I do understand I don't have that experience. Would you like, would that be an area of concern for you? So this is where you have to bring up. So this is a very powerful thing you can practice in your role plays, folks. You need to you can bring up the objection that you think it might be, because either one of two things is going to happen. Either they're going to agree with you, they're going to be like, yeah, that's actually the reason why. Or number two, they're going to be like, no, that's not the reason why. Our actual concern is blah, 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 right? And go through all these various things that you feel might be preventing them from moving ahead with you, and practice and role play those so that it comes out fluidly and with confidence. Now, hope that helps, Sneha. And Sneha also said exactly indirect way of rejecting. Exactly, Sneha. It comes down to them not wanting to offend anyone and not being able to be upfront with the fact. Because look, if they're uncertain about you, they're not going to say. I mean, even they're not going to say, "Hey, Sneha, we're uncertain about you," or "Hey, Sneha, you didn't do a good job telling us about XYZ." They're not going to say that if that's the case. I'm not saying that's the case, but if that was the case, they wouldn't tell you. And that's why they come up with some other reason to not move ahead with you. So keep that in mind, folks. What else? Don says, honesty in hiring is so rare nowadays. I'd rather be given constructive feedback that would make me a more marketable candidate. Yeah, Don, I completely agree with you, and totally understand your frustration. By the way, like, how easy, folks, would it be if people told us what they're actually thinking, right? And what the actual reasons are for why they're not moving ahead. I mean, that's the ideal situation. That's the ideal scenario. I mean, I wish things were like that, right? But the fact is, folks, you're dealing with human psychology. Remember that you're dealing with human beings, and most human beings, remember what I said before: avoid confrontation, and avoid having to offend people, and avoid having any kind of unpleasant interaction, right? And even most people who are honest and upfront, like, they think twice. Like, I can give you an example as a recruiter. I remember once I met with a candidate, and in our conversation, the candidate kept bringing up some negative experience from the past with some hiring manager, and they kept doing that. And I was like, and I wanted to give honest feedback, because I was like, because I'm thinking, look, this person is probably gonna ruin their chances at their next interview if they keep doing this, like going back to some negative experience. So I thought I could coach them, and I was like, hey, look, you need to stop going back to this negative experience, because you're affecting your ability to sell yourself, and you're putting the focus on something that's not related to your ability to function in this role that you're interested in, right? And I'm coaching this candidate, and they got visibly upset. Like, they did not take it positively, and they were like, and they were like, you know what, I'm through with this meeting. Like, I'd like to leave, please. And that was it, and that's how it goes. And in my case, I still provide honest, transparent feedback, because that's my responsibility, and that's I feel if I don't do that, I'm doing a disservice to the person in front of me, on the phone with me, or on video with me. But that's not the case with most people, folks. Most people, after they experience something like that, they're like, oh my God, are they going to go say something about my company? Are they going to write something on Glassdoor? Are they going to, and it's just an unpleasant experience, right? So because of this, people start not being transparent and honest with their feedback, because they want to avoid that kind of confrontation, or that kind of situation. So keep that in mind, folks. I know it's frustrating, Don. I totally get where you're coming from. But I wanna arm all of you with tools to navigate things the way they are as it is right now, until things change. So hope that helps, Don. Sweta says, I have over 50 resumes on our inbox, and we not even hiring for those roles. We posted on roles, and job seeker said, I'm okay with any job. I can do any job. Treat your resume with respect. Why spam? Quality over quantity. Yeah, that's a great point, Sweta. Thanks for sharing that. Jims says, hey, Dean, good to see you again. I'm open for networking. Awesome. Sounds good, Jims. Paras says, thanks, Dean. All right, so that looks like all the comments. I'm going to quickly check if I have any private messages. For those of you who had any send me private messages in regards to this topic. Looks like no private message. And it looks like there's no more comments or questions, folks. So it looks like that's a wrap. Look, I hope this information was helpful. So the point here is keep track of the objections. Understand that the objections you get might not be the actual reason why they're saying they can't move ahead with you. Number 3, role play how you're going to respond to these various interactions, right? So I gave you some examples, folks, of various things that you can do and do in terms of respond to these things. So I'm gonna by the way, folks, was this a valuable topic for you? Put it in the comments, let me know. I will speak about this in more detail. It's kind of difficult. I think we're like over an hour already, but it's kind of difficult to speak about this one topic just on one live stream. So if you feel this is useful, say yes, Dean, this was useful in the comments, and I will keep speaking about this over in future live streams, as well as future videos that I do. I got another comment here. So Priya, hey Priya, how's it going? Thanks for tuning in. Priya says, completely agree. It is sad that people can no longer take no for an answer or even constructive feedback. Many of us who would appreciate some feedback lose out over this. Yeah, exactly, Priya, exactly, folks. And you know what, Priya, thanks for coming. And you know what, folks, so Priya is an example of someone who was able to take constructive feedback, because when I met with her, we had a great conversation, and I was able to provide some constructive feedback, and she took the feedback really well, and I'm sure it must help her in some point of her job search. And I mean, that's the ideal situation. But look, not everyone's open to feedback, folks, right? And that can prevent and affect recruiters out there, or hiring managers, or people out there from giving you honest feedback. So don't take it personally. Don't get upset at it. It's human psychology, folks. Remember, people usually avoid confrontation, and people want to avoid offending people, and people want to, they don't want to risk any kind of bad, publicity for their company and their organization, simply because someone got upset at receiving honest feedback and constructive criticism. So keep that in mind. And yeah, the role play thing. So I see people saying, Jyoti, hey Jyoti, how's it going? Role playing is interesting to be more confident. Excellent. Nisam says yes, absolutely helpful. Okay, great. So thanks for your comment, Jyoti and Nisam. So I will continue speaking about this comment, folks. It seems like it has been useful for those of you. For those of you watching, if you found this live stream helpful, please hit like so that again the live stream becomes visible to your network, and I can help more people with these weekly live streams. That'll help people in their job search. So thanks so much everyone for tuning in. And if you haven't done so already, just a quick heads up. Every Tuesday, I release a new video series I do. It's called Tech Talks with the Tech Recruiter. My guest this week is an ERP expert. We spoke about the ERP space. So I released the full episode. It's on my page and all that. And make sure you follow my posts. You check out that episode. Great information about ERP systems. Every week I interview a different guest. So next week's guest is going to be a cybersecurity expert. I've also had JavaScript development experts in the past, other cybersecurity experts, IT service management experts, a lot of great people. I basically interview with them, have them speak about the various trends within technology. Very interesting conversations. Make sure you follow that. And then what else do I do? Wednesdays, I have these weekly live streams. So every Wednesday, 11 a.m., folks, I do these live streams. So make sure you mark your calendar, because I know LinkedIn is inconsistent in their notifications. So just mark it on your calendar. Just go on your calendar and say, hey, Dean's live stream Wednesdays, 11 a.m. So make sure you do that. And, that way you're keeping track of it. And what else do I do? And then, Thursdays. And by the way, I also upload these onto my podcast on Anchor and all of that. And also, finally, make sure you download I recently released a free ebook, folks. It's called 4 Mindset Shifts for a Hostile Job Market. It's about getting the right mindset in the current environment we're at in the job search. I'm going to quickly put that link, put it on my the ticker here. So visit my website if you want to grab a free copy of my ebook. It's www.deankulaweera.com. So far, I've been getting some pretty positive feedback. It's a very non-complex, easy to understand, simple book. So look, thanks everyone for tuning in. Hope everyone got a lot of value out of this. I will continue putting in okay, I got some more comments. Thank you so much. Excellent. Awesome. Yeah. So thanks so much for the comments, folks. Look, thanks so much everyone for tuning in. I don't want to hold up everyone else. Thank you everyone for tuning in and for your comments and for your likes. I really appreciate it. I will continue to speak about various project topics, including role playing over the course of your job. So it's a very important topic. Thanks so much, everyone. Everyone be safe, stay positive, and we'll connect again soon.